Welcome back to the Worthy Woman podcast with Aston Simmons. And today I have a very special guest, this beautiful woman. She's incredible. And every time I think of Amanda, I think about the way we met. Like we literally met online and then quite quickly we met in person, and it was kind of by accident, but it felt really like universally like placed. It felt really on purpose. So it was, I'm just so excited to finally have Amanda on the podcast. This has been a long time coming, this conversation, but I actually was just saying to Amanda that I think now is the perfect time for this conversation. So I'm going to be sharing lots of amazing things in this conversation with Amanda. If you haven't heard about Amanda, I've put all her links below for you. Amanda is a woman's breakthrough coach for mind and body. And what we're going to be focusing on today is talking about our body image as women and how it affects our relationship with ourselves, our intimate relationships, and how we can elevate our body confidence, but not externally. We want to be looking at internally. Amanda was just sharing a bit about her story, which I didn't know, which was really powerful. And I'm sure a lot of women can relate to just really getting caught up in the whole fitness world, looking, thinking about how we look externally and realizing that that's not actually the thing that we're looking for. So many women share that they get the body, they lose the baby weight, they finally fit the jeans, and then they realize that wasn't it because they're still looking in the mirror thinking, I'm not enough, or what about this bit, or what's going on here? And it's so sad because we really have been conditioned to believe it's outside in when the truth is it's inside out. So I'm really excited about this conversation. I think it's perfectly timed coming into summer where a lot of people start to freak out and quickly join the gym and stop eating food. And, we're coming up to Christmas and they'll either binge eat or try not to eat anything. And it's really sad because I think it takes the joy and the pleasure and the fun out of life. And, I know men struggle with this too, but women really struggle with this. And I think it's another way we kind of punish ourselves. And it just, it breaks my heart. So I'm so excited to have this conversation. Before we dive in too much, I want to hand it over to Amanda so she can share a little bit more about her as a person, because she's also a mum and she does a lot of amazing things. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Aston. I'm so excited for this. And you shared obviously how we met, and I totally agree. Sometimes those people do come into your life where you're just like, this is obviously a meant to be connection. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm Amanda. Amanda Kate is how a lot of people refer to me in, the professional sense. But yeah, I am a women's breakthrough coach for the mind and body, and I'm also a mum of two gorgeous little girls, a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, married to an amazing man. And yeah, it's an interesting history that brought me to where I am today and how I support women, I suppose, and especially as a mum of girls, it just grounds me into even more of why this is such a space in which there is still so much work to be done for us in feeling enough, like really disconnecting from these toxic beauty standards and, a lot of this crap that we've been fed for a really long time, like centuries worth of crap. And so, so I've been working with women for a really long time. I've been working specifically, I suppose, in the health and the wellness aspect of things for over a decade. And I came into that kind of line of work, I suppose, within the fitness industry from my own, we all have our own struggle story, our own hero story, if you wanted to call it that, or a hero's journey. And for a long time, I suffered with eating disorders and body dysmorphia and a really toxic body image and self-image. And it kind of led me into the fitness industry as a way of me trying to heal myself, I suppose. I thought, well, I was already addicted to exercise. I was already obsessed with my body. I was already obsessed with food. So it sort of kind of naturally led into the fitness industry. And as I started to heal myself and my addictive behaviors and actually started to learn about health and actually optimizing what health actually meant, I started to realize that a lot of my clients were mirror image of me in my trauma. And so I was working with a lot of women that really ultimately just wanted to feel confident about themselves. They wanted to feel confident. That was quite literally the first thing that came out of their mouth of like, okay, well, what is it that you ultimately want to achieve? I just want to feel confident in my body. I want to feel confident in myself. And so, you know, obviously I would help them with their physical goal, their fitness goal, their health goal, and they'd get there and beyond that. And the one thing that I saw that was a massive gaping hole was the fact that there was still this huge gap in how they actually saw themselves, and they would hit that milestone or hit that goal. I've had clients that have lost over 25 kilos, that have, you know, transformed their health in so many ways, and yet they still didn't think that they were enough. They still didn't have that confidence that they were craving. And for me, this was a problem. I was like, okay, well, I'm not doing enough here. There is something on a deeper level. And obviously I was still on my own healing journey. I was seeing therapists and coaches and stuff to transform my own self-image. And that's when I was like, that's it. That's what I'm destined to do. I need to help women on the unconscious level and help them really change the way that they see themselves. And so hence here I am, really supporting women to dive inwards and cut out all the fluffy stuff. You know, working on the external stuff isn't really going to give us what we ultimately want. And that's that feeling that we have deep within us. So that's a little bit about me, I suppose, in a short story kind of way.
So beautiful. I literally got goosebumps because it really is about changing the internal image that you see of yourself. And it is heartbreaking how many women have this negative image of themselves. And what's crazy, some of these women are like stunningly perfect on the outside. Like, I know that I've seen women who, you know, you would literally think they're like flawless, you know, and you can see the amount of time and effort and, you know, energy they've put into their physical appearance. But you can also feel that they're lacking confidence. Yeah. And, you know, you can feel that as soon as they walk in the room. You can see that in the way that they hold their body. They're often very tight, very tense, not very open. Yeah. You know, they don't often use their voice. Like, this is just some of the things I've observed with women that I've worked with. And it's crazy because that confidence you're looking for, that essence is you. It's in you. It's there no matter what size, weight you are. It's always there. So I love that your work is to reconnect women to that, because it really does have nothing to do with the external.
No.
I'd love to dive into how you help women change that self-image, because I know we both agree that that internal concept, that self-identity that you are creating, I call it like the worthy woman identity, you know, you get to define that, and women need to learn how to create and define that themselves. I mean, it blows my mind that a lot of women don't even realize they've actually created that identity that they're currently experiencing. And I know why. You kind of go, oh, really? Did I? Because some of it was spoken over you. You know, like you said, some of it is ancestral, generational. A lot of it is spoken over you. A lot of it is conditioning in society. So there is that part to it. But there's also, you know, it's incredible how much power we hold. And I love when, you know, and I just know that you would feel the same. I love those moments where you see somebody, you help them have that breakthrough and they reconnect to their own power and they realize they have the power to change, whether it's their self-image, their relationship, whatever it is. It's just incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I suppose this is a great question, because how I help women to really recreate that for themselves, it's a kind of like a multi-pronged approach, but ultimately it really starts by building the awareness around what your self-concept actually is. And sometimes we're too busy living in the external experience of who we think we are, you know, whether that is the discomfort or the lack of confidence or the anxiety of, you know, putting something on to wear, or how we feel in our underwear or in our bathing suit. And so we're too attached to the external sensations and feelings as a byproduct of what's on the inside. And so the first step is really to recognize what your inner dialogue, what your inner self-concept actually sounds like, because it's basically decisions we've made about ourselves. And so really it's connecting to, okay, what is it that you truly think and feel and believe about yourself. And how I work with women is we really dive into some really specific questions, and we do a bit of like a blueprint session where we're really trying to understand what that self-concept is and what it's made up of, because we language it all the time. We're constantly languaging our self-concept, like, oh, I couldn't do that, or I can't wear that, or there's actually a decision or a belief or emotions associated that are lying underneath the thoughts or the things that we say out loud.
Yeah.
And when we connect to that, it's really interesting, because a lot of people will think that it's more than that. But to be honest with you, it's so simple. It's quite literally decisions that we've made about who it is that we believe that we are. And so it could be as little as, well, I won't receive love unless I look like X, or, I can't be confident unless I don't have any cellulite, or there are these defining decisions that we've made about who we are, and therefore how we are going to be projected out into the world, and how we project ourselves with our behaviors and interactions and relationships and things. And so the first part is really understanding and connecting to what your inner concept is. So we shed light on that. We get a spotlight, we blare it out onto that inner dialogue and those decisions that you've made, past experiences as well, like these significant events in your life that are quite defining. We shed light on those as well, because we tend to have a lot of meaning associated with that, with those events in our life that define who it is that we are. And it's interesting because a lot of our self-concept aren't always specific to our body. It's the body is the byproduct. The self-concept aspect is a very like overarching abstract belief structure or decision that we've made. I'm not enough, for example, was something that I carried for a really long time. Now, I'm not enough wasn't really specific around my body, but what happens is these decisions that we made, these self-concepts that we choose for ourselves, they become these filters or these glasses, the lens that we look through when we're interacting with, other people, with life, and how we're filtering through the world. And so, that decision of I'm not enough, suddenly now I'm looking for all of this evidence to prove that I'm not enough. And for me, the proof that I was looking for and the evidence that I could easily attach to was my body. And that started from a really young age for me. And so when we shed light on those identifying inner dialogues and self-concept pieces, it becomes really clear and becomes really easy to, connect the dots.
Yes.
And then what we do is we really work with the unconscious mind to rewire the neurology of those decisions.
Yeah.
So that we're thinking differently, we're feeling differently, and therefore behaving differently when it comes to, how we're showing up in, whether it is your body image, whether it's your relationship. Yeah,
it's really powerful. And it's really interesting how, it's just a thought, or it's just an idea. Like, I think a lot of people, they don't question their thoughts. Like they think that these thoughts or beliefs it's who they are. They literally think I am the emotion, or I am, people will often say, my anxiety, they'll literally own their anxiety or their depression as if that's who they are. And I know for me, I'm always actually questioning. Actually, Aston, is that really true?
Yeah.
Is that really who you are? Like, I think for anyone listening who maybe has been listening so far and thinking, God, well, I do think some of those negative things and I have some of those thoughts, having awareness is great, but sometimes people are like, well, what's awareness? How do you have awareness? We can dive into that. But one simple way is to just question it, to get into the habit of questioning, is that really true? Or is that serving me? Do I want to believe that? And it's amazing how quickly that can help to try and break those neural pathways, and that you can catch them so quickly. You only need to create that little bit of space, and they will form. Like, new pathways are being formed all the time without us even realizing. But I love to kind of simplify it like that, because I think sometimes people can get, and I've had this reflected back with lots of clients, sometimes people can get into a bit of a too hard basket. with like, oh, it's just too hard. What do you mean? I can't change those thoughts. That's who I am, or that's how I was raised, or this is what I grew up with. So I can't just change 30 years of beliefs. That's too hard. And I know that's not true because I've done a lot of this work too, but I'm sure you've experienced that. How do you kind of help them to realize, and for anyone listening who's thinking, oh, well, that's too hard for me, it's just easier to focus on the external. How do you kind of approach that with them?
Well, if I put my coaching hat on, I'd be like, well, isn't that interesting? When did you decide it was too hard? And in how many other aspects of your life are you saying the same thing?
Yeah.
Like I said, we're languaging our psychology all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to be psychoanalyzed for you to be able to become aware of your psychology and your mindset. You're speaking it every single day, and you're behaving in alignment with it every single day. So for those that are saying to themselves like it's too hard, well, okay, well, when did you decide that? And two, what have you been doing already to really shift that? Because sometimes we things that we haven't tried before, we haven't done, or feels foreign to us, it's almost kind of like this automatic bypassing that we do on an unconscious level, where we're like, oh, this is like, I've never heard that before. It looks too hard. I don't know, connecting to myself. It's an avoidant technique. And it's something that we do unconsciously, because us humans are a lot more motivated to move away from pain than we are to move towards pleasure. And if you're somebody that doesn't really like to connect to negative thoughts or negative emotions, or doesn't actually want to own the fact, or accept the fact that your inner dialogue and your inner concept isn't great, because it's going to bring back feelings and it's going to bring back past experiences and all sorts of things, then of course it's going to be too hard. Of course you're going to say, no, I don't want to do that. It's too painful. I'm going to have to think about my body. I don't want to do that. I'm going to have to think about how I feel in my body, or think about how I feel about myself. I don't want to do that. It's going to bring up too much negative emotion.
Yeah.
And so for those that are feeling that way, and I know that feeling because I've experienced it myself many times, is that we have to decide what's more painful. We're always choosing our hard, right? And like you've heard that kind of quote before of like, choose your hard. But we basically have to get to a point of, well, what's more painful? Staying in the reality in which you are at, in which you are constantly doubting yourself, whether it's doubting yourself or not feeling enough or not feeling confident in yourself, feeling like you're holding yourself back in many ways. Is that more painful than the acceptance and the awareness and the tiny little point? Like, we don't have to sit in the emotions of it. It's just build the awareness, find the links, find the pattern, break the pattern. So we don't have to sit in the emotion of it. And so which one's more painful for you? And we just have to come to that realization of like, well, for how much longer am I willing to feel the way that I'm feeling?
Yeah. And
hopefully that answers your question.
Like you said, it is a bit of an illusion anyway, because it's already happening and you're already experiencing it. And you're kind of like drawing out the process. Most emotions will be felt if you go into them fully within like 45 seconds, like you go in, you come out. Like most emotions, it is just energy in motion. It wants to move through your body. It doesn't want to sit inside of you. It's actually that concept of ourselves, or that identity, like I'm not someone who feels, or, all those kind of things that, like you said, we're speaking over ourselves that really limit us. And that's what it is. It's a limitation. And I love what you shared, because it's like you get to choose. Do I want to hold on to my limitations and defend them? Or do I want to let them go and invite in new possibilities? And I know just asking myself that, because every level there's another devil. Like, I don't think we ever escape these beliefs and these different thoughts, and, they're always going to come up. They're not often the same. Like, if you're doing the work, I've found that they change, but there's layers. Like, I'm not surprised that you use like an approach that covers a lot of different avenues, because they're layered. Like, these beliefs are layered. There's different parts of them. They're a bit like an onion. So, you might find some more, but definitely what gets easier in my experience is your ability to open to it and to let it go, and to decide, actually, that's not serving me. I get to literally just like delete that, rub that out, and rewrite something, and I think that's where the power is. And that's what I'd love to kind of start to dive into. Like, how do we rewrite it? And like, what does that look like? And, I know there's so many different ways it can look, but, for the women listening, I would just love to see more empowered women, just confident from the inside out. And I know you feel the same. And I really feel like it would make all those other bits easier. Like, when you're confident in yourself, it's so much easier to put yourself first. Women struggle so much with that, especially in this modern world, and mothers as well. But I know for me that working on that inner, worthy woman, once I had built that confidence and connected to that part of myself, it was like a no-brainer that she puts herself first. Like, I didn't feel guilty about it. It was just like, done. That's what she does. That's what I do because I am her. So, and that obviously flows into like your relationships, being able to speak up for yourself and, communicate your needs. And it's just everything. It flows into everything. So how do we start to rewrite that? And, is there any kind of tips or ways that you can share with women that they can, start to do this now?
Yeah, for sure. I think the key aspect here is really important, is that we need to, first of all, stop attaching stuff and things outside of us, attaching blame to what's outside of us for how we feel. Because ultimately, if we're wanting to change what we're feeling in our self-confidence or our self-concept, our self-esteem, our self-worth, we need to, first and foremost, remove our external attachments to what it is we think is the cause for our lack of self-worth or self-confidence. And so if we're blaming our body as an example for the reason we can't be confident, well, we need to first of all take full responsibility and full ownership. So it always starts there. So for example, and it could be like the same in a relationship, it could be that we're blaming our partner for the reason why we can't speak up. And we have to be like, oh, hold on a second. If we're always going to blame our partner, we're never going to be able to speak up. Okay. And so we do have to first and foremost bring ourselves back to responsibility and ownership. And what I mean by that, because a lot of people are like, well, what do you mean? Well, that is true. Like, he doesn't let me speak, or, my body isn't, like, I can't be confident in this body because I feel so uncomfortable. And so it can feel really difficult to bring ourselves back to responsibility. But ultimately, what we always really need to remember and what we need to know is that, yes, things in our external environment might be challenging us stepping into that version of ourselves, but it's not rooting us into that experience. What's rooting us into that experience is us, and we're choosing our thoughts, we're choosing our emotions, we're choosing what's true for us. And so that's the first step, because we can't make change if we're constantly pointing the finger somewhere else, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
So that's where we need to ground ourselves into first and foremost is, hold on a second, I decided I wasn't worthy. I decided I wasn't enough. I decided I wasn't this enough or pretty enough or confident enough. And so I need to first of all own that within myself and remove blame from anyone else or anything else. And then the second part is really like the awareness phase. So the awareness phase is like the key aspect, because without awareness, we're just unconsciously living within our programs that are just running in the background of our mind, right? The automatic system of like, oh, when we look in the mirror, automatically I think, like we're focusing on something like, oh, that's gross. And that's an automatic unconscious response based upon these automatic thoughts and beliefs that we've got embedded within our psychology. And so how we create change is, we first of all, and I encourage all of my clients to do this, and it's really simple, is you've got to create a map of your mind. And you can do this with any aspect of your life. So if there's an aspect of your life in which doesn't feel fulfilling, or you don't feel like you're living in alignment in this area, or you don't feel confident, or you don't feel great in a specific area, it could be in your relationship. I know you really specialize in that area. It could be within your body image. It could be within your career or your abilities. It could be as a parent. And so how you create a map of that aspect of your mind is you dump it out. And so I would highly encourage, just get a piece of paper, you write that aspect, mum, parent life, like mum life, whatever it might be. It could be my body, it could be my health, it could be my like relationship. And you put that word in the middle of your page. And then all you're going to do, and this is where we've got to like not overthink it, is when we think about this area of our life, what emotions are present? What thoughts are present? What do we believe is true about this area of our life, being successful and being happy in this area? What do we believe is true in relation to that? And just dump it on the page, like regurgitate it, vomit it out, whatever you want to say to yourself, but you just want to dump it without judgment. Just dump it out. It could be a mixture of good things and not very good things. It could be limiting, it could be helpful. It doesn't really matter, but you've got to get it out so you can see what the map of your mind looks like in this area. And when you have the map of your mind in relation to this aspect of your life, you can very clearly see, oh, wow, okay, I have some really big emotions that aren't really helpful in this area of my life. I have a lot of resentment, or I have a lot of anger, or I have a lot of sadness or guilt. And so when we can attach and become aware of the map of our mind in this area, then we go, okay, cool. These are the things that I need to change and I need to rewire. And so once we have that map, we have this awareness, then what we can do is we can start chipping away at it.
Yeah.
And I encourage everybody to really just have a look at the words and the things that we've written down. And you really want to highlight the thing that's really standing out and grabbing your attention, that has the most energy attached to it, that really pulls at your heart a little bit. And you want to start there, because that's the thing that's probably taking up a lot of space, a lot of energy in this area of your life. And then from there, what you can do is you can question it. You can, like you said before, is this true? Or you can expand a little bit further and you can ask, well, why is it that I feel this way? How is it possible that I feel this way? And you can get a little bit clearer in that. And then there's a process that I teach women, which is all about reframing and looking for new evidence. And that's one really easy thing that you can do for yourself, because ultimately, remember, our self-concept are those filters, the lens that we're looking through, and that determines the evidence that we're collecting information to prove these lenses, this dialogue to be true. And so when we've created the map and we're pinpointing one aspect that's really taking up so much energy, is now what we can do is we can collect new evidence. Oh, okay, so I've got a thought that I'm not doing a good enough job. Is that helpful? No, because it makes me feel like this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. That's taking up a lot of energy. So what is it that you really want to feel like in this area? I want to feel like I'm doing enough. Okay, great. Now collect evidence. Show me all the evidence to prove that you are doing enough, and you want to collect it, write it all down in all the ways that you're doing enough. And what happens is now your brain is shifting gear of focus, and now suddenly you're invoking new feelings. You're like, oh, yeah, I am doing enough. And I juggle so many things, but I'm still able to do this and this and this. And suddenly now you're evoking a new focus, evoking new emotions, and you're starting to change the chemical structure of how you feel and the state in which you're embodying. And that's just a really easy way to start to collect new evidence. If that's,
I absolutely love that. And as you were speaking, I was like, this reminds me of what I do every night. I remember I used to get into a habit, like so many mums do. I'd go to bed right before I'm about to hit my head on the pillow. I'd literally think, oh, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And I'd literally start to remember all these things, because you only need one to start the downward spiral. And then you're like, oh, this. But the good news is, like you said, you can find one good thing and then you can upward spiral. So what I started doing is, actually, I'd stop it when that would happen. I'd go, oh, okay, yeah, we can make that list after. What did I do today? And then I would start to, like you said, focus on what I did do. And quite quickly, I would spiral up, realize that it was a lot. And that then helped me to kind of just forget about what I didn't do. Like, yes, I will get to it tomorrow, because, there's always more. And really, the to-do list as a mum is never done. I had to really adopt that. But yeah, just something as simple as that. And that, like, if you start to do that in every area, like you said, you can quite quickly regain your power and your trust in yourself, your belief in yourself, because exactly what you said, like, always, I say this to couples all the time in relationship, because our minds work the same in relationships. Often we all look for what's not working. and then we get more of what's not working. But if we start to, I'm like, okay, cool, so that's not working. What is working? Because I promise you there's one little thing you can find that is working, because both of them are always coexisting. Always in life, there is always something that is, and this is for every single human being. Like, that's why we really need to be kind to ourselves and each other, because someone has always got something under the surface that is maybe not working for them right now. Even if it looks all sparkly and beautiful on the outside, I promise you every human being has something that they're still working through, they're still healing or struggling with. It's the human experience. And it does coexist for every single one of us. What is right and working and good will be available, and so will the problems, what's not working, what we perceive as bad. So I just love how you shared that process. And I think starting with that brain dump is such a good place to start for so many people, because so many people have so much going on in their minds, and it can be, a hard place to navigate. So I love what you shared about just creating like a map of your mind. That's so powerful. And if anyone listening is struggling with, like Amanda said, it doesn't even have to just be your body. You can apply it to any area. I think that's a really amazing place to start, and a really awesome tip. So thank you for sharing. Is there anything else that you want to share around worthiness, self-worth, body image? I know you do so much work in so many different ways. Is there anything else in your heart that you really wanted to share?
I mean, ultimately, when it comes to what we're experiencing in any aspect of our life, and when it comes to our relationships or our health or our body image, ultimately it all comes down to the same thing. It all comes down to like how we perceive ourselves. And I'm a big believer in, and you just touched on the polarity of life, and really understanding the fact that we can't always just have sunshine and rainbows. We're the challenges that we're facing and the things that pop up for us that really get in the way, you might want to say, are the things that are really helping us to unravel and peel off the layers that are going to reveal more of our authentic self. And I think that's something that I really wanted to share, I suppose, in this conversation, is that, at the start you talked about how we all have this confidence within us. And when we have these decisions that we make for ourselves, and we create these self-limiting belief structures or these core beliefs that really dictate how we feel in our skin or how we feel in relationships or within our abilities, is that ultimately we're born whole. We're born with this abundance of confidence and abundance of being able to speak up. We have everything that we possibly need, obviously without being able to walk and talk and all of those sorts of things, but we are whole when we're born. And so we have that core tank full of confidence, full of self-worth, right? We're worthy and we're full of love and confidence and all of those sorts of things the day we are born. And what's important to understand is that confidence isn't something that we're lacking. Self-worth isn't something that we're lacking. Self-esteem, those things, they're not things that we're lacking. They're things that have been pushed aside and pushed down. They've been blanketed, they've been hidden, they've been shadowed, they have been minimized, right, over our life's experience. And I think what's important for us to reframe in our mind is that, it's not confidence that we seek, it's confidence we need to reveal. And because it's not something that we all have still got all of the worth within us. We have all of the confidence within us. We have all of what we need within us. And so when we recognize that we're not looking for more of it, we're just wanting to take the layers off the things that are keeping it from being exposed and being witnessed and being expressed and being embodied. And I think that's a really important reframe, because a lot of people that go on this journey, and I'm sure that you can relate with the work that you do with women and with couples, is that we're always looking for the thing that's going to give us more of what we want, when what we want's already within. We need to take off the layers of what's hiding that. And that could be trauma that could be those limiting self-imposed decisions and beliefs. It could be emotions that we have carried that we've suppressed and repressed and not actually been able to move through our system. It could be so many different things that are like, I always refer it as this: imagine you were a baby and you were just covered in blankets, blanket after blanket after blanket after blanket, and no one could see you, right? You're just a tiny little morsel of a thing that all of your essence is being hidden away. And you stay in that little cubby house, right, of safety, and you live that way throughout your life. And you're hiding all these aspects of yourself that are your truth. And so the healing process is literally just taking a blanket off, is just taking a layer. And so that you're slowly and gradually revealing more and more of that worth, that more and more of that confidence. And so I think that's a really important message, I suppose, that I just wanted to share, in that a lot of us can feel like we need to go on this healing journey to get more worth or to get more confidence, but that's not the case. The case is that we need to reveal more of what's already within us, if that makes sense.
So beautiful. I love that you shared that, because it's about that revealing or reconnecting so that you can reveal, because it's always there. And I'm sure you've seen this a lot in the personal development world, sometimes where this fix-it approach comes in, and it's like we're chasing things because, like you said, we're trying to get the thing so then we feel a certain way, and it eventually everyone realizes that that doesn't work. Like, it's quite a masculine approach to healing. And I think the feminine comes in at some point and reminds you that, no, your whole embodiment is about accepting all of who you are as you are. We get to love ourselves through change. We don't need to punish ourselves or blame, or, like you said, it's not helpful when we can't actually do the work then. So I love that you shared that, because I really feel like that's the feminine element of personal development, that remembering that we are whole and that we need to start from that place of self-love, self-acceptance, and that we can welcome who we're becoming, but let's make sure it's with that intention of love, and that it's already there. It's not. It's like you said, it's not a lack that you're searching for. I love that. So beautiful. Oh my gosh. I love these chats. I'm like listening and like taking notes for myself, and I just get so much from them. So thank you so much. I'd love to share before we go how all the listeners can find you. Amanda, where's the best places to find you? And I will be sharing everything in the links below for everybody as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I also host my own podcast, the NoBS Health and Happiness Podcast. So you can find me there, or on Instagram, Amanda_Kate_coach, and on Facebook, the NoBS Health and Happiness Facebook group community. And that's where I share a lot of resources and trainings and things like that, where you can really start to create that mind map for yourself. So if you go away from this episode and you do make that mind map of that aspect of your life you're struggling with, then, you're going to come into the Facebook group, you're going to have those resources and those strategies in which you can start picking that apart. And, sometimes as well, and I want to say this because a lot of people do really struggle to even disconnect. And if that is you and you're listening, don't be afraid to reach out to someone like Aston or myself, because sometimes you just need to be asked the right questions. And sometimes, being open to receive that guidance and support is what can literally change the game. Just by having a conversation with somebody who can pull that out of you, can be the most powerful step on your journey. You don't even have to go down the route of coaching. Sometimes it's just a matter of somebody asking the right questions so that you can build that awareness tool in your mind, I suppose.
Yeah, I love how you said that, because I really believe that people become people through other people. I believe we need each other, on a soul level. I really believe it's not an accident that we met, and that none of it is a coincidence. None of it is an accident. And like you said, sometimes it's amazing that it's just one conversation or just one podcast, or that literally just like that, within just a small few minutes, you can decide, oh, they have a totally different perspective or belief than me. Yeah. I'm going to adopt that, if that's if that's working for you and it's going to work for your self identity or your self concept to get you what you want, like it can be that simple and easy, which I love. I love that you shared that. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to receive all the feedback. I know that this is going to be a conversation that a lot of women really benefit from. So thank you so much for being here. Beautiful. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.